Good morning, it's Matt. Now, I have a confession. I'm actually recording this the night before, and the reason why I'm recording it the night before is because I'm out flying. So when you see this episode, I'll be in the air. So I can't do two things at once, so I need to cheat time a bit. So I'm recording today's RC coffee chat last night, I'm afraid. But with that said, you'll find out what the upgrades to the model which I've been flying in a few moments time. So today's itinerary is, apologies, we've just done that one. Oh, line of sight flight with the chuck glider. Wow, we'll get to that in a moment. FPV is next for that model. 3D printing and RC models, that's a topic which has come up. I have a bonsai build coming up as well, and the bulk of today's conversation is going to be around the Phantom FX-61 upgrades. So with that said, let's wind ourselves back to the beginning. So the topic of the day really is the chuck glider. Wow. As you may or may not have seen, and by the way, these two episodes which you can see on your screen right now, those are actually live over in the Facebook group. So if you use Facebook, the link to the group is in the video description. Click on that, hit join, and I'll pick it up when I get back. And both of those episodes are live in that group. And the reason for that is generally I've got a couple of videos like you can see here, which are backed up and I've not been published yet. And tonight for you, the first one goes out, part one. Now, I'll give you a warning right now, that is a long episode at approximately 26 minutes because we have everything which covered up to getting it flying, then seeing it fly, and then me working out that rat doesn't really work very well, and then going back and you get a very excited Matt. And then the last part of that journey is that where are we going to be taking this chuck glider? So that's part one. Part two, which I did today, was the line of sight flight with the... it was just such unbelievable. Even my wife commented, H, on how fantastic it flew. It likes to fly fast. It will fly slow, I hasten to add. And when you see that episode, you'll see what I mean. I had it on full throttle all the time. It was just brilliant. And yeah, I'm so glad that I'm on this journey with this chuck glider. And I just want to say, like, following on from yesterday's RC coffee chat, is to say thank you to you for joining me in this journey, because your help over the last couple of episodes has been absolutely invaluable. So thank you on that topic. So yeah, we did a line of sight flight. Wow, absolutely brilliant, unbelievably good. Next step, like I hinted at earlier, is to load her up with some FPV kit and then fly her FPV. That's going to be fun. I haven't done it yet. We'll soon find out anyway. So that'll be later next week for that one. The other one is apologies. I've just not got round to getting to the Vector. So yeah, part two of the Vector build series not started yet. But what I can tell you, which brings us really nicely onto the next topic, is the topic of 3D printing with just remote controls, the hobby itself. Up, as you can see on the camera, that is actually a servo mount for the front of a mini Talon wing. So you imagine that a servo goes in there, and then you've got a platform on top which has got, say, your run cam and your FPV camera on it, and that fits in nicely on the very front of the model. And I printed that out on the 3D printer today. It took just over 4 hours or so, and I'm super impressed with the quality of what it's come out like. And I'll do a separate episode on 3D printing in general. It's good sides, like being able to just make your own parts. It's bad sides as well, i.e. calibration, the different filaments and things like that, and its setup, and also its cost of entry as well. And why sometimes it's better to buy products off the shelf compared to printing your own. So, for example, I was asked in the Facebook group today, Matt, do you print off your own control horns? Really good idea, but frankly, no, I don't. And the reason why I don't is because you can buy them so cheap now, like £2 for 10. There's no point in you 3D printing them off. And the reason being is that larger structures with 3D printed or objects tend to be pretty strong. Smaller objects, not so much. And again, we'll get into the different types of plastics, PLA versus ABS and so on and so forth. So that's a topic which will come up at some point in the future. It's in my list of to-dos to get done. So that's 3D. Bonsai, my little baby bonsai, which is behind me. Cowpat bonsai. Yeah, she's really had enough. And I'm sad to say it, that I'm going to retire her. We must be in the realms of hundreds of flights now with her, and it's really not handling at all in the air. I can't tell you how many flights I've had with it, because I put it this way, I've got my 20 quid's worth out of her and a hell of a lot more. There's hardly any of the side fins missing on her. Look, we had a bite out of her when I was chasing Craig's Texuma around, harmlessly trying to knock him out the air, and his model bit me. The other fin's pretty much gone. All the carbon fiber rods inside, they've all lost their glueness, all their tack inside, and I think, if I'm honest, the servos are on their way out as well. Yeah, it has had a lot, and I mean a lot of abuse. So, yeah, she won't go in the bin. There's a lot of good memories for her. I think she'll end up, I hate to say it, maybe as a wall hanger. I might actually just put her up here on my wall, just to remind me of all the fun which me and her had. So, yeah, she won't be burnt or anything like that or thrown away. She will always still be here with me, if that makes sense. So, but that does mean good news for you, because it means that I will do a bonsai build video or build episode, and you'll see the lengths which I go to ensure that the bonsai is a crash or unscheduled landing resistant. Crash is such a dirty word. Unscheduled landing resistant model. So yeah, we have a bonsai build episode coming up at some point in the future. Now, on to the last topic of today, which is around the FX-61. In fact, while you're there, let me just get some of these photos up on your screen. So what you can see here is the top lid to the little nose camera mount, which I printed out. And to be frankly honest, I won't be using it. It's far too small. You just won't fit a run cam and an FPV camera on there. So I will use the bits which I can use from this as a base in SketchUp, and I will go on and create my own little platform to go on the top. So yeah. Oh, and there's the base unit itself, actually been just literally, it's just been imprinted. And by the way, I used Captain tape on the heater bed, and that worked brilliantly well. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I'll put that up on the camera. I don't know if you're going to be able to see how shiny that bottom is. But yeah, talk about finish quality. It came out absolutely fantastic. But that said, I will end up scuffing it up so that I can glue it onto the model. But yeah, that said, it was the best finish I've ever had to date. And before, I've been using masking tape, which is quite nice because you can just wet it and it peels off. So yeah, there's a couple of 3D printed parts. Back to the Phantom wing. So this is my Phantom FX-61 flying wing. It's a huge one. It's about 1.50 meters, well, about 1.5 meters wide. I have permanently glued on the wings. Okay, and that was a conscious decision by myself. Is that I always knew that I'd never be happy with just like the one screw holding, or the little screw to hold the main rod in her still, and then one screw to hold the wings on like that. I just wouldn't have been able to sleep at night knowing that I've got a model which is capable of a decent range being held together with basically a servo screw to hold the wings on. That just didn't cut it with me at all. So what I did is that I glued both wings on permanently. It does make it a bit of a challenge to transport her. She is now even more of a challenge to transport her, considering the upgrades which I've been and done to it. So what I had before is that I had the receiver in the main compartment bay, and the video transmitter, which we can see there at the back, that was actually behind the left fin. Okay, so a nice safe place to it, and it was great for me just to test the waters with her. What I have now been and done, oh, and also the GPS and compass, was just mounted on the top of the surface with the cable running out and on the top. Now, if I zoom in, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the line. You might be able to see. Yeah, I did have the cable going all the way across. Now, what I've been and done is embedded an L9R receiver into her right-hand wing. Now, this is an upgrade from the X8R receiver. Now, personal experience, the X8R is a fantastic receiver. Personally, well, I'll loosely answer this one. You might have issues around about 2.2 kilometers out. So I needed something with a little bit longer range, hence using the L9R. Now I've been and embedded that into the wing, so I cut that out with, well, put the receiver on the wing, marked out where I wanted to go with a little biro, then dug in with a little craft knife, then did a crisscross pattern across it, and then got a pair of pliers to dig in and then twist, and then took the foam out, and then used the soldering gun to tidy it up. We do have S-bus coming out this side over here, and you can just make it out on this side. I have another servo lead coming out this side, which is the RSSI. I also, while I got the printer running, I also printed out a antenna holder as well. Now, there was a bit of discussion in the Facebook group about the angles which I've been and put it on. I don't know. I frankly don't know what the right way of turning these antennas around is. I've elected for that route, but I could very easily just clip the cable tie off. And by the way, I'd like to just make this point. The receiver is embedded in the wing, and it's quite a tight fit. I've been and put some Blenderm tape on top. There is no chance in Blue Monkeys of that ever blowing out. Now, for a protruding part, if I can spit my words out, like these antennas, I have actually elected to go for a physical restraint. So the antenna holder here is not only, number one, dug in by a couple of mil, about 3 or 4 mil into the wing itself. I've then put some goop glue in there as well to hold it still after sanding at the bottom with the antenna mount, which I printed off. The antennas themselves are cable tied in as well, and the whole unit is also cable tied around the whole wing. Now, I like I said back earlier, I would always feel bad if a model came out of the sky because of my own stupidity. So that is kind of the lengths which I've gone to with this model to ensure that any parts which like this are really well held down. Now, if we move across, we've got the GPS and compass for the vector or Eagle Tree vectors now mounted in the wing, and the cables come out underneath. If we scroll on the other side, we really can't see it. So I've got some other photos here. So there's another photo here. Yeah, you'll see the job which I've done on. I did cut out this sweeping line with a soldering iron to get the cables in, but as you can see, I've got it slightly wrong. But there's a nice big thick piece of Blenderm tape holding that down. And you can also see the cable tie restraint there as well. Now, for the video transmitter, this is on the other wing. Of course, I'm using a high quality component, the Immersion RC video transmitter. It's nice little snug fit in there, but we do need a bit of airflow over the top of this unit. So you won't be able to see it in this image very well, but it is raised by a couple of millimeters up above the wing, so we ensure that we get airflow over the top of it. Again, the cables are held down, well, the bottom part of the video transmitter, it's got some Blenderm tape over the top of it. And also I've elected for, it's like a 45-degree angle connector for the antenna. Now, the reason for that is that I would have ideally liked to use the 90-degree connector, but I didn't have one which would work with my SMA antennas. So rather than making a compromise in the antenna, I made a compromise in the angle of the angle. So I've got a 45-degree joint there. And this connector here is actually sealed together now with a nice good dose of thread lock as well. So the antenna will unscrew for transportation, but the connector itself, that's done up really nice and tightly, and has also got thread lock in there as well. Plus we get plenty of airflow over the top, and again, look, physical restraint. I'm not just using tape. I have and the compression fit of the actual cutout itself. I'm also using a physical restraint, which in this case is a cable tie to ensure that that just never departs the model itself. What else have I got photos of in here? Yeah, that was me getting that one ready. There we have the compass, which we've kind of seen already. Where's the undersides? Ah, there we go. So that's actually her right wing, which unfortunately is not in focus, but you'll see what I've been and done. There is the receiver out. Is that right or wrong? Pass. Anyway, that's the right one, which has got the antenna in it, receiver in it. So I dug out a track all the way down there using a ruler and the soldering iron, and just dragging a track all the way across. So the cables go all the way through. All the cables have been custom made, especially for each of the connections. They run down and then go through into the model itself. All pretty much perfect length as well. Super happy with that job. And then on the other wing there, we can't see. Oh, that must have been the other side. So there must have been the the S-bus cable for the GPS and compass in there. And then this side must be for the video transmitter. And again, same process, comes down, connects with the servo lead, and then runs through. Now, to be frankly honest, on the video transmitter side, I am fully aware that I'm going to get probably some interference, not only because of the length of the cable which I'm using, and I chose the highest quality cable which I had, which was super thick, high, large number of strands inside cable. It was like the best cable which I've got. Is not being twisted, so it is going straight through. So I do know that I am going to cause myself some interference because of that. But that said, it seems to work here on my tests, so it just up and down the drive. So yeah, it seems to be okay. There is like one line across the top, but I think I can live with that, to be honest. Oh, and I also finally got around to blend derming on properly the servo protectors underneath. Now, I was also asked by the orange colour on the bottom of the wing. So I don't know if you can see this funny orange colour here, and also like we saw on the previous photograph. And the funny orange is that basically I fiberglassed the bottom of the hole on the FX-61. Now that was a tip which I got from 7 Demo 7, I believe, and it just made fantastic sense, because it then means that whole center section is it's like a rock, if that makes it. It's just so super tough on there. Now I mixed up my own epoxy for that. It was some 15-minute epoxy and some 40-gram glass fiber matting, which I used. It was a little bit messy to do. I had to sand down some pieces at the end of it, but I am super chuffed with that. And I have rolled her and I have nosed her in the ground, and just no damage at all. And it is like, I'm just seeing if I've got another photo, which I don't, unfortunately, is that it does have right up onto the nose as well. So yes, I did add extra weight to the model by doing that. But on the flip side, I added loads of extra rigidity, and it also means that I could land on tarmac if I wanted to and not care. So yeah, I'm really glad that I did that. And also, I don't know if you'll be able to see. In fact, can I just zoom in on the here? I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Yeah, you are going to be able to see that. Is that also on the motor as well? There's 2 nuts on the motor. Okay, that's completely on purpose. Okay, there's nothing worse than a God forbid, the propeller flying off, and you've only got your distance to glide back down. So just a few common sense things. Also on the both the elevons, they've got blendum on both sides. The servos are not only glued in, they've got reinforcement taping on top. The push horns were tested. The push horns which came with the Phantom FX-61 were utter shite, and they went straight in the bin. They were just one of those one-sided ones. I don't know if you've seen the video on Sir Andrew Newton's channel, where somebody was doing a flight with one of the first flights with it, and it just went in the ground because the control horn came out. So that won't happen with mine. It's one of the push-through ones, and it's the super thick. Oops, excuse me. It was the super thick control horn, which I've been used out of my own supply. So, yeah, and there's a little bit of fuel tubing around the connector as well. So it's just not going to pop out either. So yeah. Quite a few topics which we've been uncovered today. Like I said, apologies for recording this the night before. It does mean that, yeah, it's a slightly longer episode today. So I sincerely hope you got your cuppa in your hand, because if you do, I'm really jealous. I have to stop drinking coffee at 6:30. And right now it's 10:25 at night. And if I had a cup of coffee right now, I wouldn't sleep tonight. And I would miss the flying session, which I've got lined up tomorrow morning, literally at dawn. So to recap, apologies, I'm flying at dawn, so I'm recording this episode tonight. I'm sure you understand that one. The line of sight flight went amazingly well with the Chuck glider. Wow. Once that one's finished, I will convert it back to just a straightforward RC model, or go and get myself another one, because hey, look, it cost a £5, it flew absolutely brilliantly. If you want early access to that, the part 2, that is in the Facebook group. The link to that is in the video description for you. Part 1 will be out this evening for you, so it will be out on Friday night. So if you're based in the United States, that will be your Friday morning. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what time I'll schedule it for, but it will be out this evening. We will be doing FPV on the glider next. That's going to be wicked fun because it's so fast. And what else do we have? Oh yeah, 3D printing with RC models. It's definitely a topic which I'd like to cover. So it's in the to-do list. I've got plenty of little examples which I've personally used. And I'll try and keep it as practical as possible. So I'll show you some of the cool stuff you can print, but I'll also try and define a line for you when you should 3D print something and when you should not. Okay, and which normally just either boils down to just sheer complexity or price, to be honest. So you'll find out more about that when I get that episode put together. We have a bonsai build coming up. Like I said, I'm retiring my baby bonsai. We're going to get another new one out. And same setup, to be frankly honest. 2S on the bonsai. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. You can cane and you can rag the nuts off it all day long. And I'm thinking of Phil up at one of the flying clubs. I think he's just named me another battery mat, because that's what he's at, because I'll just cane the model and then walk straight back, swap the battery over, put a new battery in, and walk straight back out to the flight line and fly it again. So yeah, Phil, I think he just calls me another battery mat, and that's because of that bonsai flying wing, because I just stick a 2S battery in it, cane the nuts off it, excuse me, rag the nuts off it, and then just go back and get another one. And I literally, honestly, I got a dozen of those 2S batteries specifically for that model, and there has been more than one occasion where I've been and used a dozen batteries in it, and you just can't get bored of it. So anyway, last topic which we covered today is the Phantom FX-61 and her upgrades. The last upgrade which I've got planned, there's 2 upgrades which I've got planned for the FX-61. The first one is to install the Runcam Swift, which I do not have on my desk, so it must have gone over there in the box. I will be putting the Runcam Swift on there. That does lead me into a conversation about there is a hidden gem FPV camera, board camera, which you can buy for about a tenner, and it's absolutely fantastic. So if you are on a budget, I will cover that board camera at a later date. But for me, I will be upgrading the FPV camera to a Runcam Swift on the Phantom, but I decided to stop my upgrades on the Phantom Wing for two reasons. Number one was time, because to do all that did take quite a while. And the second reason is because I felt like I changed quite a bit. And I don't fancy changing the camera as well, because then there's too many unknowns which have been changed, if that makes sense. So all the kit worked before. The only thing which I've really changed is the receiver. The receiver binds, everything works as acceptable as it should do. It's passed its range check by a country mile. I think it's only supposed to be like 30 meters, and I was like, it's 60, like pretty much all the halfway down the drive, you know, and it was still working. So I'm super happy with the setup. It just needs to get airborne and tested, i.e. what I'm doing this morning while you're watching this episode. And coming back onto the topic, we had a really good deep overview of the Phantom FX-61 flying wing, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. Yeah, with that said, from myself, Matt, it's Friday. Are you flying tonight? Are you flying tomorrow? Do let me know in the comment section underneath this episode. And with that said, from myself, Matt, thank you ever so much for joining to me today for, unfortunately, no coffee, RC coffee chat. So like I said, if you're having a cuppa, have a slurp for me. And if you're flying tonight or on the weekend, let me know what you're up to in the comments section underneath this video. So with that said, from myself, Matt, cheerios.